To give you an idea of some of the facts behind it all, the 763 utilities that we've looked at account for a combined $337 billion in planned and projected spend. I am Reese Tisdale, and this is The Future of Water, in which we talk about all the ways which companies, utilities, and people are addressing the challenges and opportunities in water. This is episode 78, and I think it's going to be a good one. Today, I'm flying solo. All the travel, conferences, and client commitments I've mentioned over the last couple of weeks to a month across the team has quite honestly made logistics a little more complicated than usual. But also, more importantly, I wanted to make sure that people were getting what they want, and that is Bluefield perspectives on water. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach today. Usually I have the luxury of relying on my colleagues to carry me through their detailed analysis. And I'm not going to lie, admittedly, they make life a bit easier. So shout out to everyone from Barcelona to the Bay Area and in between. But I guess that, what I wanted to share was that Bluefield's team has really been pumping out a lot of content to clients. And I thought I'd just try to highlight some of those perspectives and findings from the analysis before I myself jump off to a flight to the southeastern U.S. where I've got to meet up with about a half dozen clients. Talk about all things water. So before I do that, and speaking of meetings, just a reminder, I'm going to be in New York next week at Rethinking Water, the Science Capital event. Really excited about that for the day. I think that's on the 19th. So take advantage of my time if you get a chance and reach out. Got WEFTech coming up in Chicago. Got a big team attending, a lot of meetings and events there. So be on the lookout for Bluefield research there. And we've also got Aquatech, which is a little bit further out. That's in Amsterdam. We've got a number of European colleagues attending Aquatech. And then there are some smaller events and meetings we're attending along the way. I just wanted to call out those three. Then lastly, this came up in a conversation with industry, colleague, if you will, last week, said, I'm really interested in going to the Boston office to meet up with you guys. It's an open invite, open door. So anytime you want to come meet with our team to talk about what we're thinking, what we're seeing, we're downtown Boston. So take advantage of that opportunity. So with that being said, let's get to the meat of the discussion. And that is really three deliverables that stand out to me this past week that I've been looking through on the Bluefield's roster of content that we continually build on. And so I'll just list them out and then maybe dive into some details. One is the U.S. and Canada Municipal Utility Capital Improvement Plan analysis and data collection exercise. We look at water, wastewater, stormwater budget outlooks from 2023 to 2031. A lot of interesting insights there that clients have really, I'd say, highly valued over the past couple of years. I'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about third-party O&M for U.S. water and wastewater utilities. This is a big data set that we've worked on for a number of years. We've worked with a number of clients and prospects to sort of better understand what's happening in O&M. We've helped on M&A. We've helped on just competitive strategies and positioning for clients and helping them understand what's happening at a contract level, a geographic level, but also at a peer or competitive level. And then lastly, I thought there was really interesting research note we put out on Oldcastle. Oldcastle cements digital water strategy via Partnerships and M&A. Good analysis from the digital water team, actually, and I'll share some thoughts on that. So why don't we jump into number one, make it interesting, hopefully. Companies across the water industry value chain are always they're always looking for an edge to better position their products and solutions against their peers. They want to understand things like, where are the potential customers located? What are the projects that match our or their clients' vendor products? What's the available budget? Where's the spend happening on the for U.S. municipalities, and actually Canadian utilities as well? So to help our clients out, Bluefield's team of water experts has dedicated a significant amount of time and resources to helping out companies with bottom-up data. We do this through data collection, cleaning the data, scrubbing the data, and analyzing capital improvement plans in this case. Once again, we've taken a look at about 763 large and mid-sized water, wastewater, stormwater utilities across the US and Canada. These CIPs really translate capital needs into market opportunities for technology, equipment vendors, as well as engineering construction firms. And I'll give you an example. We have a client who's really interested in digital water strategies or building out a digital water strategy, and they're trying to figure out where the dollars being spent on digital solutions, systems, hardware, equipment. And so what we've done is we've taken the data that we have and sort of pulled out the dollars associated with all these budgets independently and help guide them in their thinking. And we're able to do this because we've really systematically organized categories of tens of thousands of projects across 48 states, 30 to 40 different categories and subcategories. And we've done it every year for, I think we're now at 3 to 4 years running, at least at this scale. So really excited about this. There will be a deck coming out in the next complimentary deck at that. That means a freebie for you coming out in the next couple of days, if not weeks. But to give you an idea of some of the facts behind it all, the 763 utilities that we've looked at account for a combined $337 billion in planned and projected spend between 2023 and 2031. As you can imagine, there's a bit of a tail. There's a big ramp up over the next, let's say, this year to next year in their budget planning. And then it does tail off. That's the natural flow of these utility budgets. But 45% of the spend is earmarked for water infrastructure, drinking water side of things, 46% for wastewater, and 9% for stormwater. We are seeing a bit of an uptick in stormwater in the discussions, or at least in the budgetary documents being provided. So that is of interest, not only to a number of different clients, but also to us, because stormwater is an increasing focus for Bluefield Research. The top 20 utilities that we've looked at account for a combined $137 billion of the total and planned and projected capital investment through 2031. And at the front of the pack is New York City with over $24 billion in anticipated spending. Distribution and collection pipe networks constitute the largest budget segment at about $111 billion in planned spend between 2023 and 2031, followed by water and then wastewater treatment plants with $82 billion. So a lot on the network and distribution side of things, and that kind of makes sense. There are 4 million miles of pipe in the ground. I can't speak to exactly what the number is for these 763, but we have that information. We can pull that up. And then just to kind of spread it out or normalize it, annual per capita investment, capital investment, averages about $361 for water, $309 for wastewater, and $88 for stormwater through yearly capital spend. And I guess the yearly capital spend can exceed $600 per capita for utilities planning significant infrastructure upgrades. So if that makes sense, 361 kind of to 300 for water, wastewater spend per capita. And then, big projects are driving those dollars up if you got to build a big new plant or make significant capital investments. Well, like I said, this is going to be released, at least a deck, a primer, if you will be released to any registrants on bluefieldresearch.com. So you can check that out when you get a chance. And it'll give you a little bit of year-over-year spending. What are the key segments? If you want the data, you're going to have a conversation. That's a whole nother matter. That's really where the meat and potatoes of the conversation will take place. But always a big annual event for us. Really like it. We've streamlined the process. And what's really great is now, clients can look at 2021 data, 2022 data, 2023 data, and an ongoing analysis. All right, on to, research deliverable number 2 that is drawing a lot of interest among prospects, and it has for some time. Private participation in water and wastewater takes on really many forms, from system ownership and concessions to third-party operations and maintenance contracts. O&M, the latter of which I just mentioned, it's enabled by lower barriers to entry across, what is, I guess, a highly fragmented addressable market. These third-party O&M providers that we do analysis of, that we track, they represent, in our minds, the bulk of private participation in the US. They're not, they're active across a number of different systems. They're growing, they're expanding through M&A. And there are a number of drivers and inhibitors that I think we've even talked about on this podcast that we really consider in our analysis. So, third-party O&M, you're bringing in, a company, and it could be a Veolia, it could be an Inframark, could be an ESG or others. But key drivers are shortfalls in skilled labor. There's a shortage of critical technical personnel amidst an aging workforce. The world's gone a little off kilter, obviously, for obvious reasons over the past couple of years with work from home, retirements, silver tsunami. But it's also just, labor rates are also still really high. So it is also hard to retain workers within utilities these days. So one driver. Another is just financial constraints on municipalities, driven by regulatory requirements and other emerging challenges. Look in the news, whether it be water quality issues, whether it be PFAS, these are things that are coming down the pipe that utilities are going to have to address and have to pay for. And so sometimes it's easier just to find someone else to help you out do it. Outsourced value creation would be number 3 on our list. This is created by just basic process optimization in areas such as billing, services, asset management. Also rapid responses to acute shocks, things like cyber threats, climatic events. It's kind of like most people don't change insurance providers until, it hits the fan. And then you realize, wait a second, I need better service. I need faster response. I'm concerned about what might happen in the future or happen again. Therefore, utilities and in some cases, cities are looking to municipalities. Lastly, just infrastructure management's not as easy as it used to be, maybe, and it's increasingly complicated. So relying on third parties with more extensive experience and scale is sometimes really just a more practical solution to operations and maintenance, whether that's collecting data from multiple systems, staying ahead of aging assets, maybe applying some predictive analytics and solutions to get ahead of it. The reality of it is, and I've mentioned this before, I think with Eric Bendler brought this to my attention, 85% of water utilities in the US employ less than 3 people. So that's pretty significant and a big barrier to operation, efficiently operating and maintaining systems. So big drivers, lots happening. O&M is on the rise, and there's a lot of activity and interest in that space. We've identified and we track at any given time more than 2,000 O&M contracts. And this really represents the foundation of our market sizing, system sizes by population. We look at the values of the contracts. We look at when they were signed or contracted, but also more importantly, or equally important, we look at who's actually doing the work. Who are the contracts with? They enable market share, competitive positioning, or our understanding of the competitive landscape enables this. And so we get an idea who's doing what, when, where, and how across the US. And that's why we have a lot of companies who are trying to get into the space. And in some cases, it's not as simple. It's not just as basic as I want to do O&M or our company does. Maybe you just want to work with the O&M providers because you have a solution. You're a vendor of a hardware, software, some other water solution. So a couple of takeaways from our report we just put out. Current O&M market across the leading players for contracts, third-party contract services, it totals an estimated $2.9 billion in annual spending for water and wastewater. These companies serve approximately 39 million Americans. So that's 12% of the population that are receiving services from O&M, third-party O&M providers. The market landscape is highly consolidated. Probably not news if you're in the know, but just to give you an idea, Veolia, Jacobs, Inframark, they really make up upwards of 75 to 80% of the population being served. They've got the big contracts in many cases. So, if one contract is what I would call a big chunk play, perhaps, the remaining 20% is where there actually is a lot of activity and interest, because they're more or less on the margins, right? They represent or present opportunities for growth, whether it be through M&A or partnerships. And it ranges from a mix of investor-owned utilities that have some contracts, engineering firms, and then there's some diversified treatment and solutions providers. And lastly, what I would say when it comes to this report, we've done some competitive analysis. Key competitive trends shaping the market over the last few years include M&A. The Veolia Suez deal was a big deal, right? So that goes without saying. Inframark acquired ESG not all that long ago. So that sort of added to their footprint in the southeastern US. Secondly, private equity firms are targeting service providers. So we've seen companies like Warren Equity, Keystone Capital, and New Mountain Capital carve out positions in the contract operation space. Then also we've seen companies like H2O Innovation, the Canadian company, make an acquisition of Genesis membrane product. Inframark has acquired acquisitions of treatment technologies. They've also been acquiring SCADA system integrators, which is kind of a complementary strategy or solution to what they're already doing. So there are sort of not just, one-on-one, buy another contract operations player, but they're also thinking strategically and making acquisitions in that case as well. So really interesting to see what's happening in O&M. Once again, clients through our private water insight service have access to the data set, the report. If you're interested in that, you can buy it off the shelf. And but more importantly, just don't hesitate to reach out to us and talk to us and see if there are ways that we can help you out. We do it all the time. We do it for specific regions, states. We do it also across the US and other markets as well. On to number 3, and that would be Oldcastle cements digital water strategy via partnerships and M&A. So on 1st of August, Oldcastle Infrastructure and FIDO Tech announced a strategic partnership to accelerate the U.S. market entry of FIDO's artificial intelligence or powered leak detection software, which is really interesting. Is I think I mentioned that some of our colleagues, some were going to California Data Summit or conference, and I think that was the end of last week. A lot of discussion on AI. What does AI mean for the water sector? Some of it might be a bit hyperbolic. Some of it might be real for the rank and file utilities out there looking to make improvements. But this partnership is the latest in a series of maneuvers by Oldcastle to gain a foothold in the digital water solutions market. Atlanta-based Oldcastle was founded in 1978. It's a subsidiary of CRH. And Oldcastle has become a major network infrastructure solution supplier for water, energy, communications, transportation, but it also provides pipe, stormwater infrastructure, valve, meter boxes, and other concrete-based products to the sector. Founded in 2014 is FIDO. So UK-based FIDO Tech is a sensor agnostic software company that leverages AI, as I mentioned, to identify locations and leaks, quite honestly. And so FIDO's worked with a number of major UK utilities such as United Utilities, Thames Water, Northumbrian. It also has a network of partnerships through which it has sort of delivered solutions or channels to market in North America and Oceania. But in 2022, FIDO was also acquired by Ski and Water. I think they believe they're German, and received follow-on investment from Emerald Technology Adventures. But as far as the research goes, I believe my colleague Christine Au had worked on this, and 3 points to take away is Oldcastle is leveraging its market channels for customer relationships to facilitate FIDO's expansion into North America, as I mentioned. And all as recently as August 28th, the firms announced a joint venture or a joint project to reduce leaks in non-revenue water for EPCOR's Phoenix service area, but also it's receiving financial backing from Microsoft. So EPCOR is the Canadian or Edmonton, Canada based investor in utility with utility assets, owned utility assets in the US Southwest. So that would be Arizona, New Mexico. They also own some assets in Texas. Traditionally, FIDO, they've been as I mentioned, out of the UK, but traditionally the UK has been considered a top market for leak detection solutions. Old country, old systems, old cities, old pipes. So you'd think there would be a big opportunity there. Also, a lot of the utilities have been under significant regulatory stress to deal with leakage. Cracks have started to emerge in the UK regulator objectives. Utilities are often finding it, quite honestly, they're finding it cheaper to pay associated fines for failing to meet OFWAT, that's the regulator. They'd rather pay the fines than address the real problem, the strict water loss reduction targets. And so they're less likely to invest in innovative management solutions. So with that being said, as you can imagine, moving into the US or other markets through the help or a partnership with Oldcastle makes a bit more sense for FIDO, given what's happening in the UK. And it wasn't, I'd say, a month or two ago, there was, I think I was talking with my colleague Keith Hayes about Thames Water and what was happening in the UK market. So if you are interested in listening to more episodes of Future Water, go back a couple episodes and listen to what we talked about Thames Water. And it's kind of a bit of a circus, is a nice way to put it, in the UK. And then lastly, what also is really interesting is FIDO's partnership with Microsoft signals, I don't know, an opportunity, a new frontier of opportunity in global leakage management. So basically, Microsoft is bankrolling the deployment of FIDO technology on utility network infrastructure in London and Phoenix. And Microsoft is seeking to claim associated water loss reductions against its own corporate water replenishment targets. So this is a bit of paper shuffling, if you will. So Microsoft is paying for leakage reduction. They get to claim credit in their targets. So lots of discussions to be had about what this means for corporate sustainability, trade-offs that are being made, whether it's being made with dollars, whether it's being made with action. So really interesting analysis and findings from our digital water research team. So there you have it. So as I called out at the beginning, we've got capital improvement plan analysis in the US and Canada. We've got a mountain of data, tens of thousands of projects and budgetary data going out to 2031, as well as going back historically. So you can start bridging that on Bluefield's Data Navigator platform. We've got third-party O&M for US water or wastewater utilities. Once again, big data set, lots of good analysis and a report to go along with it. And we've got some research from our digital water team on Oldcastle and its digital water strategy, but also and its partnership with FIDO, but also what's the role of Microsoft and big tech in water. So with that being said, there you have it. Like I said from the outset, if you are going to be in Boston, let us know. And we'd enjoy the opportunity for a meeting. It's not that hard. We're people too. I'm in the office every single day, so I can be with people. And if you want to talk water, all the more better, because that's what we do. So reach out, let us know. Please subscribe to the Future Water Podcast. Give us a review. That's how we know that people like this. It's not that hard. If you're on Apple or your iPhone, just give us a star. If you want to give us a bad one, fine, I can live with it. If you want to give us a great one, all the better, because that's what keeps us moving forward. Currently, we're not charging for sponsorships. We're doing this to share the wealth. And so if we're getting good feedback, we'll keep doing it. Lastly, if you got ideas for topics or thoughts on what you'd like us to talk about, send us a note to waterexperts@bluefieldresearch.com with any topic ideas you would like us to discuss. Like I said, we're doing this for you. And lastly, tell a friend about it. Friends listen to friends, and that's why things happen. That's quite honestly, how things go viral. So I'm told. That being said, Hope to see you soon over the next coming weeks or months, and look forward to hearing from you. This podcast and these water industry insights have been brought to you by the one and only Bluefield Research. To learn more about us, visit us at bluefieldresearch.com. Until we talk again, be well, be safe, and take care.